So I want to talk to you about how to handle it when your adult child, or I guess it could be your child or your teen or a parent or a spouse or a friend or a sibling, cousin, could be anyone. When someone comes to you and they tell you the pain that they have over how you've treated them in the past, or in the case of a child, what it was like to grow up in your home. How do you respond to that? How do you handle it? You might say, well, I don't need to listen to a video about that. But let me tell you, it is hard to not get defensive. It is hard to not correct and to set the record straight and to tell the person, well, that's not the way that it happened. You need some guidelines in terms of how you can respond. This happened to me probably about 6 or 7 years ago. I don't think they planned it, but all three of my daughters came to me within a couple-week period and told me kind of a lot. I mean, it's not like we haven't talked about the dysfunction and what they were raised with. We have so many times, and I've acknowledged it and we've talked about it, but they came to me and they brought up some current concerns and some past experiences. And it was a lot to take in all at once. But I absolutely set my mind and my heart to be open and to hear and to listen. And I made some really major changes that have stayed with me to this day based on those conversations. Now, I'm not saying that everything everyone brings to you is something that you have to change. But I'm saying that because I was open with that, I did end up making some changes, and my relationship is better. I like myself better, and my relationship is better with each of my daughters because of that. So the scripture is Proverbs 20, verse 5, and it says, the purposes of a man's or a person's heart are deep waters, but a man of understanding draws them out. So it's like it's a deep well, and you're going to respond in an understanding way, and you're going to do specific things that is going to help to draw the pain, draw the truth, draw the needs of this person out so that you can address them. And I'm going to give you some tips on how to do that. So open your heart, open your mind, think about this. And I'm not telling you that in every case this is exactly how it has to be, because there's so many different considerations and situations and background information and differences in how people are. So first of all, let me say I'm not talking about letting somebody abuse you, scream at you, tell you that everything about you is wrong. No, I'm not telling you that you need to let somebody just rip you apart. No, this is heartfelt pain, concerns, needs, experiences that people are telling you, not somebody who's trying to abuse you, manipulate you, just rip you down to nothing. Okay. Their motive is to share their pain, to bring healing, and to give you an opportunity to address it. So the first thing is you want to remember that the person who is coming to you with the problem is the one who gets to speak. That's the person who needs to be listened to. It's not time for you to counter, defend, cut them down, tell them where they're wrong. Secondly, you want to know that a person can have an experience that differs from yours and not be wrong. So the other person is on the receiving end of your home, you as a person, that interaction that they're bringing up. You are on the other side. Your experience, maybe even your memory, is going to be different. So you cannot tell the person you're wrong. That didn't happen that way. That wasn't the way it was. That's not how you felt. You can't tell people how they feel. You can't tell people how they interpreted it. You can't tell someone how they experienced it. So you're going to have to draw out what happened from that person's personal experience to understand it, to get yourself to where you get what that person, what's going on with them, what they're trying to tell you. That means can't defend it, can't shut it down, can't chop it off, can't say, nope, that's not the way it was, or your sister thinks differently. Yes, each child in the family can have the same family and have different experiences based on their personality, their birth order, their relationship with each of the parents. It is completely different. Different children can have completely different experiences in the same home with the same parents at the same time. Have to keep that in mind. The other thing is that you want to recognize, especially if this is an adult child or a person, that there's no guarantee to a relationship. Part of how you respond to this will impact the, the relationship you have with that person. Are you willing to show yourself to be open, to be caring and concerned about this person's feelings and experiences? If you are, that makes you a safe person. That makes you a person who is willing to hear and at least consider somebody else's needs. If you do the opposite, if you shut down that person, you say, I don't care, that's not the way it happened, you're a defensive person. You're not a safe person. You're not somebody that this person can repair a bad relationship with. And if this person has these feelings, since this person has these feelings, this will have to be attended to if you want the relationship to grow and deepen and be open and be good. So you've got to think, if I love this person, my concern right now is not primarily my own feelings. My concern right now is this other person's feelings. This person has a floor. My job is to seek to understand from this person's experience what happened. And that requires you to be a person of understanding. It requires you to be a patient, kind person who does not allow the defensiveness to come up to cut that person off. And you can tell you're starting to feel defensive when you're having thoughts in your mind that are saying, no, 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 not that way. And all you're thinking about is not what the person is saying, but what you want to say, what you want to do to counter, how you want to correct. No, this isn't about you. The words that come out of your mouth need to be clarifying questions, which is, could you explain that better? Could you help me understand why that bothered you? Could you help me understand why this is something that has stuck with you that long? How did you feel when that happened? How did you perceive that event? What were you thinking that as to why I was doing that? How did that hurt you? How does that affect our relationship right now? What do you need from me? What do you want me to understand? Oh, those are not defensive. Those are all clarifying. The next thing that you need to do is you need to, if you're going to talk, you might want to restate what you think you heard. Just because you heard it doesn't mean you got it right. Seriously, we filter what we hear from people to what we're comfortable with, to what fits in our worldview and our frame of reference. When someone's telling us something that's completely new, we've got to be willing to reframe it and say, can you, is this what you just said? Did you just tell me that this was really painful for you when I put your sister first and went to her things instead of yours? Or when I was critical about the way that you dressed when you were a teenager? Whatever it is, you need to reframe it so the person can say, kind of, but not 100%. This is what I was trying to say. That's how you get clear communication, and you make sure that you don't misunderstand and misinterpret what the person is saying. That also is a message to the person like, I'm open, I'm trying, I'm listening. And if it starts to get it all heated, you can say, can we calm this down? Can we kind of keep this? I really want to hear what you have to say. If it's getting to where it's too much and you're just being bombarded, or you're starting to feel yourself get angry or irritable or defensive, then you can ask, can we take a break? and come back to this tomorrow or the next time we get together? Or could you write it down for me where I can really read it and think about it and really get clear on it? Or can we just take a break, maybe a half an hour break and take a walk? You can say, I'm trying really hard to understand, but I'm really kind of overwhelmed with all of this. You're allowed to say that, but you have to get back to it. You have to have a plan of when you're going to resume the discussion, and you have to stick to it. You have to make sure that you will come back to it. And there has to be a reason. You don't just say, that's it, I've had enough, I can't hear anymore. That's defensive. That's not safe. That is not going to make the person come back to you and open up again. And that's what you want if you want a good relationship. If you don't, then you can react to all the defensive ways you can imagine, and it'll not go well, and you won't work on your relationship. No challenging, no countering, no arguing, no correcting, no saying this is the way that I believe it was. That can come at a later time, but not when the person first comes to you, unless that person gets everything out and it's kind of on a smaller range of things, not their entire childhood. And you've shown the person that you get it, you understand, and the person is like, yes, you got it. That's what I'm saying. Then you can come back. But again, the first thing out of your mouth is not, that's not the way I remember it. It's basically to let the person know that you're sorry and that you understand and that you are sad that the person experienced it this way. Unless, the one caveat I have to say here, when we deal with really difficult people, if the person uh, has a problem like narcissistic, or the person is borderline and their perceptions are really distorted, then sometimes you have to say, or if the person is accusing you of something that's completely off and it's abusive, then you might have to say, you know what, I can't listen to this, and I'm not going to. That's a line that only can be done when it's someone like that, but not when it's somebody that is coming to you, does not have that history, somebody you care about, and you really want to know what they're saying so you can help correct it. You don't want to guilt the person or criticize the person, make them feel bad. I don't care if you're struggling hearing it, it's on you. Like the person coming to you does not need to be guilted and feel bad that you're suffering or that it's painful. So don't use that, because that will make the person feel like I can't come to him because can't come to her, can't come to him because it's too much for them. So you don't want to use that to manipulatively. And remember, even if it's your child or your spouse, the idea is to recognize that you want to know what's going on with them, and you want to be able to listen and consider. And anytime somebody's criticizing you, you agree with whatever is true. Affirm whatever's true. Yeah, I was. My kids would say about me when I was raising them, you were stressed. Even our friends thought you were stressed. And that's the first thing people noticed about you. And I was stressed. I was really stressed, and I was angry with my kids because I was angry with their dad, and I was struggling, and I wasn't patient, and was way too perfectionistic in the home and the way that what I expected out of them. I need to be able to hear that. And the explanation, sometimes you don't get to give it. Sometimes you do. Sometimes I might be able to explain that, but it's going to be way after I acknowledge it as truth, and to where that person is open to hearing my explanation or hearing my side. If it's going to sound like you're just explaining it like, oh, well, I didn't really do anything wrong. Like, well, yeah, but I was under a lot of stress. That is not the way that I would say that. I would not say, oh, well, yeah, I was under a lot of stress. We were building a business and you guys were terrible kids. And dad was really, we had a lot of marriage problems and problems with in-laws. Like I wouldn't say that. That would not, that's excusing. Okay. That's like an excuse. Instead, I would say, yeah, you're right. I was stressed. I let my marriage problems affect my stress with you guys, and I was angry, and I was an angry mom, and I was way too strict with you. See, that's acknowledging it. But sometimes, and then later, I might be able to say, this is where my ideas, like now, my daughters understand. They don't even want me to say anything bad about what I did wrong. They're like, Mom, that's in the past, it's over. But that's because I've heard them and I've made changes and I've acknowledged it. And I've worked on this. And I mean, they're older. So this is not, did not come in their 20s. Okay. In their 20s, they were still hurt and they were still angry. This has come after years of rebuilding relationships and of acknowledging truth and making it very safe, and of me making changes in who I am, and believe in what I call living amends, which is being today who you wish you were in the past. Today, I am the parent that I wish I had been their entire upbringing, because I wish I had been that patient person that was not defensive and willing to listen and take things into consideration. And I would love to have been. I wasn't a horrible mom. I did a lot of really good things. I don't want you to think that I was like this terrible mom, like did nothing good. I was really involved in my kid's life, and I, only worked part-time. I spent a lot of time with them. We did a lot of things together. I was very prepared them for problems that they were going to have. I mean, I was very involved with them. I cooked, I kept the house clean. I helped their dad build a business. I shared a lot of great things with them. I taught them about the Lord. I mean, I could go on, but I had some really big flaws, and they have a right to be unhappy with those things, as do other people have a right to be unhappy with certain things. I mean, I was too reactive with my mom over my frustrations with her way back from my childhood, and was could still get upset with her when she enabled family members, which she continues to do, and she's 94 and she's not going to change. But I don't have any right to be impatient with her. So I've changed that. I have worked on that, and I am patient with her by accepting her. So these are the things that are our responsibility in a relationship. Again, doesn't mean that anyone with just completely inaccurate perceptions can throw stuff at us and we just have to take it on. I'm talking about bringing healthy things to you. So you're going to ask those clarifying questions. You're going to restate. You're going to empathize. Like I said, I'm sorry you experienced that. I know I was angry. You're going to admit what was wrong. You are going to accept their interpretation as what they experienced. You're not going to say that's not the way it was. You're not going to do that. There needs to be mutual respect. Like I said, no abuse, no yelling, no, when it gets heated, if it's yelling, if it's accusations, if it's swearing, if it's abusive words and tone and attitude, nope, you're going to go, I can't listen to this when it's coming out in this way. If you can do it with me and you can be respectful, I'll listen to anything you have to tell me, but not if you're going to be abusive and disrespectful. Or you could say, not if you're going to be disrespectful. And that's true for a spouse, a parent, anyone. When somebody brings something to you, they have to be respectful in the way they do it. And then you need to be respectful back. I think I've basically told you everything. Yes, I want you to focus on the child's feelings. I'm going to reiterate that instead of your own feelings. The child or the person that's coming to you is the one that matters, not yours. Yours are later. If there's something after you've addressed all of this, if there's something later that you have to say and you know how to bring it up, then you might be able to say, I need to let you know this, or I want to talk to you about this, or can we talk about, how you might want to share from your heart. That was really hard for me to hear all that, but I'm glad you shared it. So there is a time to say something about you, but not when it's going to come off as being excusing, defensive, rationalizing, not understanding. Remember, it's going to be a person of understanding what draws out from that person. The whole bird, the purposes of a man's heart are deep waters. The purposes, what's going on inside this person is deep, deep. It's got many roots, many things that go along with it. You need to figure out how to draw that out so you understand exactly what it is. And I believe you can do that. I know I've done it. I know I've grown in the ability. I am not perfect. I have to remind myself to not be defensive, especially with my husband. That's probably the one that I still have to work on this even more with. Marriage is complicated. There's a lot of stuff with there. We've got to try to be patient with our spouse too. When our spouses come to us and tell us something, can we, instead of being defensive, can we be a person that draws out those purposes, that draws out those experiences, draws out that understanding? I know I like myself a lot better, and my relationships are a lot better when I make sure that I'm capable of doing that and I do it. So I hope that this has been something that will give you a lot to think about. I also have a feeling it's going to generate a lot of questions and a lot of clarifications. Feel free to do that. And I respond, I try very hard to respond to all of your posts on my YouTube videos and your emails to me, that where you email me and ask me questions about your situations. Please check into my classes, which are on Zoom, and my studies and my books. There are just filled with resources that will help you to have apply biblical truths in practical ways to all your difficult relationships. And I promise you, you will find that there is so much for you to learn and apply, and it will be really, really helpful. So thank you for listening.